Cool. Well, hi everyone. My name's Dave. I am part of the team at the Diocese of St Albans. I've been there for just over five and a half years, I think it is now. And my role is creative and digital communications partner. So I look after all of our creative communications and all our digital communications, as well as overseeing our social media strategy and lots of other pieces as well. And I'm probably similar to a lot of you. I also have a parish role as well. So I'm the assistant pastor of one of our BMOs that's in partnership with a parish church as well. So a lot of what I'm thinking about when we're going to be talking about using Affinity is not just from a sort of internal perspective as part of the diocese, but also from very much a church perspective and what can be useful as well. So a few things before I share my screen and we get kind of started. First of all, what is Affinity? Now, I know that many people have been very used to using things like Publisher over the years to produce things like parish magazines and other pieces of information as well. And we know that that's really come to the end of its kind of life now as well. And also alongside that, there's a real need now often to share things amongst different people. So where Affinity really comes in is in very many ways, a replacement for that kind of publishing environment, alongside a whole host of other things that I'll show you as well. But also, it's a really great tool for being able to share documents with other people as well. And because you can get it for free, it means you can share that with anyone and people can download and interact with the documents as well that you create. You might also be aware of Canva, as Will mentioned, and Canva and Affinity are owned by both by Canva itself. So there's a lot of overlap between the two. And today I'm also going to show you a little bit about how you might access some of the stuff that you've made in Canva in Affinity as well, in terms of colors and things like that as well. So I'm going to share my screen and we will get going. Um, Great. So hopefully you can all see my screen. I'm just waiting for everything to load. Cool. So this is Affinity itself. Now it may look a little bit overwhelming and a bit confusing, but I'm just going to talk through the basics and give you an understanding of where everything is and what it might look like. As I said, Affinity is free, so you're able to download this one app. And what's really important to understand is that Affinity as an application or a program covers three main areas. So the first one I'm going to talk about, and these are accessed all from the top left up here. The first one is what we call vector. And you might never have heard of vector before, but effectively vector, if you ever did a GCSE in maths or anything like that, you've probably been annoyed by vectors at some point in your life. And vectors are basically just the point to point. And that means that when we create something as a vector, we can make it any size that we want. We can print it to any size. We can print it to a whole side of a building, and it's not going to lose any of its quality as well. So often, if you're working with a professional printer, they would love you to send them a vector file because it just means that they can print any size, any shape without losing any quality of what you're trying to produce as well. So you might spend a little bit of time in Vector, and I'll show you some cool things that might be helpful to you for that. It's also got something called Pixel as well. And Pixel is just what you normally expect in maybe somewhere like Canva, or just when you want to just design something. If you were, I don't know, creating a poster, or if you were just trying to very quickly create a big sign for the front of your church or something, you might also do pixel mode as well. And then the final one that we're going to talk about today in particular is layout. Now, layout is very much the publishing engine of Affinity. So this is very, very similar to what you would access through tools such as Adobe InDesign or Microsoft Publisher as well. And it actually brings a lot of the functionality from a tool like Adobe InDesign, which is the professional layout publishing engine, and brings it free to Affinity, but with the usability and ease of use that you get with Canva as well. So it's a really great tool, really powerful. Now, you'll notice that I've just clicked between each of these three so-called studios, and if I hover over, it will call them studios. The amazing thing about Affinity is that you can switch between each of those modes, if you like, or studios, without losing your document. So the documents that you create in Affinity, it's one document type, but could be vector, it can be pixel based, but also can be layout based as well. And that just means that you can all open up different files, and they could contain very different things within them as well. You'll notice that as I click through these studios, the tools or the kind of options that you're seeing on the screen change. And this is simply what's going on when you click these buttons is that we're not changing the file, we're not doing anything too clever like that. All we're doing is changing the options available to us as well. Now, within Affinity itself, you can, if you want a bit of advanced use, you can actually build your own studio workspaces as well, which just allow you to put the tools that you particularly want to use as well. But 99.9% of the time, we stick in one of these three studios that already exists. You'll see also we've got access to Canva AI as well. So if you've used any kind of Canva AI tools, if I hover over on the left kind of hand side here, we've got our generative fill, our expanding tools, our edit tools, our blurring, our lighting, colorizing, and things like that as well. So all of those tools that you might have used within Canva in terms of AI expanding an image and things like that are available directly for you within Affinity as well. And it uses exactly the same engine. So the results you're going to get on Canva on the web or the desktop are going to be exactly the same as what you see here on Affinity as well. But for the purposes today, we're going to be thinking a little bit about and focusing on the layout. I should have said at the start, if there's any questions, do feel free to shout out, put in the chat, and also I'll make sure there's space for Q&A at the end. So we're going to be thinking about this layout engine that we've got here, and I'm just using this is a very rough starter for 10 for our conference programs for our 2027 Bishops Conference here in the diocese, and I've just got 2 pages that I've done not really anything to yet, just to give you an idea of kind of what we're working with today using data from our last conference as well from our conference website. So within our layout engine, we're able to create pages in exactly the way that you might think or expect. So I've got pages over here on my left, and I can simply click Add Pages. So I could, for example, add another 2 pages to this document, and I can just then filter through and see these here as well. Something else to point out when we're doing this, I need to double click to get back to my pages is important, but also like a publishing engine that you'd expect, we've also got the ability to create master pages as well. And this is really helpful if you're creating something like a parish magazine, for example. So if I just click Add Master here and we'll call it Inside Magazine, I'm just going to set up a tag so I can find it again. And we've now got our Inside Magazine template. If I double click on that, and let's say I want to add a title box, I can do that simply by clicking over here on the frame text. So that's our title box. And we might just type in here our test title. And you can see that that's now our, if we create a new page, we can now select our Inside Magazine template. And here we go. We've now got our magazine template using this kind of master template that we've got here. And if I go back to our master template, that means we can add anything we want. So for example, we could add a table in. So if, for example, we were trying to display different types of information as well, we can obviously add all kinds of different frames that we want as well. So that would mean that we could add shapes by just clicking on the rectangular tool over here. So we might just want our magazine to have a nice shape to it somehow. Maybe it's got a little margin over there on the left as well. So we can really use this tool to create any kind of design that we want, all within our engine that we here, all within our layout that we have here as well. The other thing to point out is that we could create multiple master pages on here, and we can also duplicate as well. So if we had one that's perhaps on the for the left-hand side, we might have one that is for the right-hand side. So we just simply move all our items around like so. And now we've got a left-hand page and a right-hand page. So very quickly, we've now created a leaflet document that we can then get printed professionally, and it's going to always follow the same design style as well. Now, if I go up here and click on document right on the top, I have an opportunity to set up my document. Now, in this case, I'm using a very small and slightly weird shape. But what I can do is create a page preset here of, let's say, A5, which might be our usual profile. And so I can simply click under dimensions and say, yep, I want A5, and I'm going to update everything to that as well. It means I'm going to need to rebuild some of my template. But as you'll see, just like with Canva, and that's why I wanted to demonstrate this, I can simply just drag and move things around as well. So it's very easy to build and move things to kind of fit what you want as well. And there we go. We've now created our little A5 booklet template again as well. So that's kind of how you might set up a layout or how you might set up a particular document as well. Now we're going to think a little bit about how we might use text with that. So if I go to my page here, and I'll just get rid of the little grey boxes. What we might want to do is adjust what our title is. So again, we're just going to call that testing. And we're going to go over here to our right-hand side. And here we're able to select all the fonts that we've got both installed on our system, but we can also find some other fonts as well. Now, you'll notice here I've got access to our Dyson logos, and that's because what I've done is set this up to use the same brand kit as Canva. So you might know that in Canva, you're able to create something called a brand kit, and that is basically a set of logos, images, and fonts, and effectively, therefore, styles of your particular kind of project or whatever. And you can set those up really easily in Canva simply by searching for brand kit and creating one. You can then bring in those brand kits into Affinity really easily. And you can do that simply. If we go to Window, sorry, and then we scroll down to where it says Canva, we can simply click where it says Canva brand kits, and that will then pull in all of your Canva brand kits from your Canva. So you've got access to all of that here as well. And that means, for example, if we want this header to be in the right diocese colors, I've got access to all of my diocese colors here that I've selected before. I've also got access to all our diocese fonts as well that we use in this particular scenario. So we can therefore create some really quick and really easy designs, and we'll just make this a little bit bigger so you can see what we're doing. So we've now got our design, which is looking like exactly how we'd expect, in line with our Dyson brand guidelines as well. But if I just go to none, oh, sorry, up here, and I select our text again, you'll see that I've got access to all of the fonts on my computer system as I would normally expect in any kind of desktop environment as well. So it also means that we're able to go to our brand kit. So if you find a font within Canva that you don't have on your computer, you can add it to your brand kit, and then it will appear here. So for example, we have a Dyson font called Barlow, which may not be installed on everyone's machine, but it means that people can have access to use that font within Affinity as well. We also have this font, which is Belly Display as well, which is the one that I'm using up here for this testing. So that's a little bit about where we'd find our fonts. The same is also true with our colors. We can just come up here and click and change the font color. We've got access to all of the colors that you'd expect in all of the way that we would expect as well. Another thing that you might find really useful, here's another document that I made earlier. So these are some logos that I've been working on for a particular project that we've been doing, and you'll see that I've now moved away from layout into vector. And the reason I've moved into vector is that I've wanted to create these as vector images so that I can print them out and put them on some large billboards as well. So what we're just gonna think about is how we might create something within that. And just bear with me 1 second whilst I find our I just need to find our special feature, which I've been looking for, which if not, I will come back to. But what we can do within our vector place is basically create all our kind of images as you'd expect from kind of an image library as well. And as just a feature, basically what this feature does, it allows you to take an image that you might have already that is maybe a bit blurry. So, for example, you might have been given a logo from someone. You might even have your church logo, and you might think, there we go, and you might think, ah, you know what, I really want that, or I need that to be in a slightly different format. So I've just downloaded a bit of a terrible image from the internet. You can see here, this doesn't look particularly good. It's a bit blurry. You're thinking, oh, I kind of need something better than that because I've got to print this out and put it on the side of a church. So if I go up here and I click vector, and again, I probably want to make sure I'm on the vector mode on here to do that because we might use some tools. I've got this really cool tool called image trace. And if I click image trace up here, I can then click apply. And what this will then do, and it's just being a little bit slow at the moment, this now has converted our logo that was a little bit blurry into a true vector. Now, in this particular example, this is really blurry, so it's not going to work as well. But if you've got something like a church logo, which is I was working with last week, you can run it through the image tracer and it will basically tighten and sharpen up a lot of those edges as well. So if I just try and adjust um, I can basically adjust when oh, there we go. I can adjust my edge threshold and the tolerance that I want, and we can start making that image a little less blurry as well. So that's something. And then you've also got this really cool tool that I really like, which is basically a split bar that allows you to see before and after. As well. So you can start seeing how you're working with that. So that's just a really neat tool that if you've got a particular logo that is a bit blurry, I had one, for example, that I'm just struggling to find, which was of an angel that a church was using, and it was incredibly blurry. I ran it through the image trace, and now I've got the actual image that I wanted from that as well. Just while we're on the vector area. Some of our vector tools that we might expect, I've got, for example, shapes as you'd expect, but I've also got all of my other tools should you want to go into them, which allow me to basically do lots of different drawing, and that uses something called nodes, which is basically points along a line. So I can create really detailed artistic drawings within this as well. And then once I finish that, I can simply just click layout and I've still got my nice design that I've created, but I can now add my columns and my tables, and I've got that inside the parish magazine, for example. Um, cool. So that's a little bit of an overview of how things work. The final thing I want to show was just if I drag in a logo from my brand kit, for example, I've now got our Dyson logo in there, and this is all coming from our Canva brand kit. This isn't stored locally. I can now basically using the arrows, I can basically make that center to this left-hand column, and now I've got a really nice little design that I've effectively built up here as well. And obviously all of this can be viewed in different ways as well. So I can choose to basically go into something called preview mode, which is going to remove all of my lines and things like that. But if I take that off, I've obviously got my frame lines that I want, and I can customize that. You can put all your usual things like margins and guides, and that's just like Canva. I can drag out guides from either of the left, the X or Y axes, and I can drag those down. So then I can start creating guides. And the beautiful thing is that if I then go into, for example, my let's say this is our template here. I can then add in some guides to that template, save that template, and now I've got a master pages template, so I know everything's going to be lined up in the same place. And that's why we're using it for things like parish profiles, using it for kind of leaflets and things like that, where you need to make sure that things are in the right space. As well. So that's a bit of a deep dive. Sorry, that was lots of information.